Hello and welcome to Don't You Know Loco podcast. We are three cousins looking to break generational curses by sharing our mental health and healing journeys. Join me, Candy, along with Lisa and Renee, as we talk about
the things we're not supposed to talk about.
So,
have you noticed that, I always have to feel like I have to go in? It's so weird. It's so weird. I've noticed it on the videos.
So today we would like to welcome Dr. Kristi.
Kanel.
Kanel.
Everybody mangles it.
And I just said it too. Kanel. Kanel like camel.
Okay.
To the podcast.
Just call me Kristi.
Okay.
That's why I tell people to call me Kristi, because the
Kristi.
last name's a hard thing. So.
Are you kidding me? Look, all of our last names are super hard to pronunciate, so we understand. She is a licensed psychotherapist. She is also a professor at Cal State Fullerton for 41 years now.
As long as I've been away. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh.
I started very early.
Yeah.
As soon as I became a licensed therapist, I began teaching part-time. And then I went on to get my PhD. And then I became a full professor while I was continuing to be a therapist. So that was my little journey there. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
So I started pretty young teaching, but I love teaching. So, but I like being a therapist too. It's just a different thing.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Oh, we'll go into that next. I have so many questions. So today, let's start with our challenges. Lisa, what's your challenge for the...
Okay, so last week when we were talking about how I was on vacation and I had forgotten my medication.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So 3 days in, I was like, oh, I'm fine. I can do it. I'm good, and it's all like psych meds. So I was like, okay, I know what I have to do. I know how to, work this. I'll be fine. 3 days in, I was already like, okay, this isn't right. It just feels weird. So fast forward, by the end of the week, I was there for a full week at Big Bear. By the end of the week, I was like, I couldn't. I was very emotional. I was very sad and just depressed. Just everything bothered me. And then now fast forward, coming back, I started taking my medication and right away as soon as I got home. I'm like, see ya, dogs. I took it. So now it's been about a week. So now I'm starting to feel okay because it took a while for it to start kicking in again. So my challenge was that I had to, kind of reset back to how I was before I went on vacation. But before I went on vacation, I had just moved. So I have everything everywhere. So I had to unpack. So this week I was unpacking and I was doing, kind of throwing away things, purging stuff. So it was actually so good. It was stressing me out seeing all the, the stuff in the living room and everything. But taking my time, just focusing on what I was doing at the time and decluttering everything. I got rid of so much stuff, donation stuff, that it felt so good. It felt so good.
That's good.
But yeah, I think it was more of just being in the moment and just okay, I know this is going to take time. I know this is the process, and yeah. So today I feel good. I feel really good today. So.
That's good. That's always nice. When you can purge, because I buy so much clothes that I have to purge every now and then because it's okay, this doesn't serve us. Yes. It doesn't serve me anymore, so let's move on. Yeah, that's where I've started is things like that because I used to have a tendency of saving everything because I would need it for later on, but then that time would never come. So it's okay, get rid of it.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. What about you, Candy?
My challenge was work. I was preparing for my vacation, so I kind of stressed myself out. And one of my coworkers was like, "It'll be here when you get back." Because I was I'm gonna work on 4th of July. I'm gonna take my laptop home and I'm gonna work because I'm gonna be gone for this many days. And she was like, "It's fine. Don't take it home. You're just gonna why put yourself in a stress mode right before your vacation?" So I was like, okay. I did bring my laptop for this
course.
weekend.
Of course you did.
But I am not bringing it on 4th of July. I'm not taking it home with me because I am going to take that day to like prepare myself
Yeah.
because I have a tendency to do that, to stress myself out, and then everybody's like, just chill, and I'm the only one stressing myself out.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes.
So I'm going to take the day off.
Can I ask, do you pack the day before, like the night before you
No.
go on vacation, or do you like days before?
Weeks before.
Really?
Yeah. And
Weeks?
yeah, well, because my outfit, so I have to figure everything out.
Oh, yeah.
So like I like to try everything on as well as with accessories, so that I don't overpack because I have a tendency to
Okay.
overpack.
Yeah.
And so that's the way I control that, is by trying everything
Wow.
on and seeing what shoes go with multiple outfits.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, and I noticed that with like everything that had happened with my parents got in an accident, and so it just kind of put me in a depressive
Yeah.
stage that I hadn't even thought about our vacation. My husband would ask like, what, you know, are you ready? And I'm like, no. But I realized that it was my anxiety about, you know, being on vacation for this long and leaving my mom, you know, after all of this. And so I was like, okay, you're in that mindset. You need to get out of it because this is not your normal. Like normally I'm like weeks of putting things here and there when I'm in my closet. Like I throw it into the luggage.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, okay. So this past week I had thrown stuff, like it's almost full of my luggage. So
Okay.
yeah.
Cool.
My challenge. What about you, Renee? What's your challenge?
My challenge this week has been like trying to get back on my routine. Got injured playing basketball last week, and I'm still kind of like recovering from it.
It takes a while.
What was your injury?
I tripped and I landed on my knee, scraped it up pretty bad, and I hurt my shoulder.
Oh my.
So the realization that I'm getting older now, and and I had to take the time off to like recuperate. But like right now, like I'm trying to get back to the routine, but I'm still kind of on vacation mode.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard. But I'm also telling myself, you know what, Renee, you're on vacation, like you're taking some time off. It's okay not to be strict on my routine. Like it's okay to, you know, walk the dog still, but you know I don't have to like do everything strict. Like
Yeah.
vacation mode.
Yeah.
So I have to tell myself that, like, or else like I'm too hard on myself. Like, oh no, like you know you need to do it. It's like, no, you don't need to do it.
Yeah.
You know,
Just chill.
just chill. Yeah.
So easy to say that.
Yeah. But that's my challenge, and I'm just okay with it now. Like just cool. You just take your time healing. Because sometimes we push ourselves, right? And now I'm
Make it
older and I
worse.
realize like I can't push myself like I used to.
You can't bounce back.
I can't bounce back. That ground did not let me bounce back. That's for sure.
No.
So, but yeah, that was it this week.
Before I share my challenge,
Yeah.
can I make a comment to each of
Yes.
you?
Of course.
So
We would
Lisa,
love
as
that.
I was listening to you, I was thinking, wow, she's talking about purging. What a great self-care. And can I nerd out for a second?
Of course.
I'm totally into like neuropsychology and understanding what goes on in the brain. And you know that when we sleep, our proteins synthesize and we eliminate old material, and so our body can absorb new material, and that's what dreaming is. During that REM state, we're eliminating stuff we don't need. So it is physiologically healing to purge. I do the same thing with clothes too, Candy. I buy new stuff and I get rid of old stuff, and it's a way. It is very healing and physiologically healing as well. So and so I like how you help balance yourself out by that, and it sounds like you're doing that. You know, helping with your anxiety. I think that, and I also resonating a lot with some of the compulsivity, if I might, meaning that we feel anxious when we don't do stuff.
Yes.
Okay. And that's one of my challenges lately, as I've been overcoming my incessant need to always be doing something and busy. I'm challenging myself. I don't have to have a perfectly clean house anymore. I don't care. Things are not bothering me. I want to enjoy the moment. I want to chill, relax, enjoy things a little bit more. And so that's been a real challenge, something I've been working on as well. So I totally relate to you, Renee, and Lisa and Candy. So thank you. I mean, I feel
Thank you.
Whoa. I love it. Yeah.
So So do you want to share your challenge, Kristi?
So my challenge, I have I have a sister, and sometimes, throughout my life, I've tended to be a little concerned and anxious about pleasing her, and making sure she's not mad at me. And so of late, I've kind of my mother passed a couple of years ago. And so I've just been kind of working on that and overcoming that and just letting myself be me.
Yeah.
And if she's mad at me, she's mad at me. But I'm not rude. I'm not mean about anything.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have rights too.
Yeah.
I have a right to do what I want, and feel what I feel, even if it's different from her.
Yeah.
And we aren't the same person. And she kind of thought we were the same person. I'm a younger sister. So when I was young, I always was like, oh, I wanted to be like my older sister. But no, it's like, not so much. I know who I am. So I have been very honest now. I'm direct. I don't do things I don't want to do. And that's been a relief for me in many, many ways.
I can relate.
Yeah. I was thinking about Lisa.
I love you.
I was thinking about Lisa with even with the podcast, we started off 4 of us and then now we're 3 of us. And it and not to stir up things, but it just, you can tell your vibe changed. That now that your brother is not here, it kind of changed the vibe. Definitely. Because it, like she was saying, she feels a certain way, like she has to keep up a certain way with Kristi feels that she has to keep up a certain way with her sister. It felt that way with you and Manuel.
Yes. And really quick with I feel like that, and I'm not, you guys know me, I don't talk about people like that.
Yeah.
But I've always struggled that with my sister too, with my mother and my sister, how like I'm the middle child, and I just want not to please them, but just make sure that they're good before, like I'm always like want to make sure that they, how can I put it?
Well, in a way, if they're good, then I'm good. And for me, that's the codependency part of me. Like if my family are all happy and my sister's happy, then everything's okay. And I'm happy. And so I grew up as a child mediating and making sure there's harmony in the family, because that creates stability for me. I don't know if you can connect to that, Lisa, at all.
Yes, absolutely, Kristi. That's exactly, you're hitting it. But as of maybe like the last year and a half, I kind of let it go a little bit, little by little.
Yes.
And now I'm like, I'm okay. Like if I know maybe I said something or I did something and she might have not liked it or he might have not liked it, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with however they think or feel or whatever. It's none of my business. They can feel whatever, they can think whatever. It's me that's gonna hold on to that if I let it hold on to it. So like if, I don't know, that's just how it's been lately, and it feels good. And that's how I know. I'm like,
the thing you said about her brother not being here, it strikes a chord in me. Like, that's why you don't want to have like friends and family in like a group counseling situation, because you may have an issue with them. And if you're doing family therapy, that's one thing, because then it's therapy and you're working directly on it. But you don't want a whole audience of other people to be part of that.
No.
So I can understand what you're saying, and it is tricky because you don't want to be rude or hurt anybody. So, I think you're kind. As long as the way I feel, if I approach people with kindness, I feel okay about myself.
To me, both Kristi and Lisa, it sounds like boundaries have been set with your relationships with your siblings, and that's something that I had to learn myself with my, like when I moved here to Vegas, I would be at my parents' house when they moved every day, and my husband's like, hello, you can't just be at your mom's house all the time. And I was like, I need to set boundaries. And that's something that I've done, is like, okay, I can't be there all the time because this is the family I chose to create on my own. And this is where I need to be, because that's where, and so that's something that I struggle with, where it's like, I can't, and especially with what happened with my parents' accident, it was like, okay, but you still need to go home and take care of, your family as well. So,
yet that's one of the biggest issues, I believe, in many families, but in particular Latino families, is this expectation of interdependence for life. And in a sense, it's built into the culture, a little bit of enmeshment, the idea that we're all involved, a family is the most important unit, called familismo, right?
Yes.
It's everything, and that there's a betrayal in a sense.
It is.
If you are seeking to differentiate, and yet at your age or in the 20s is when we do that differentiation from our family. And when you're Americanized, you're not adhering necessarily to old traditional Latino values. You're using American values, which values independence, differentiation, going your own way. So that creates a crisis in many people in the Latino community. What we call different rates of acculturation. Your family, your parents are unacculturated, they want tradition. You're acculturating, becoming Americanized, and that creates a crisis. How am I going to manage that? And it's very difficult.
It is. It really is. It's confusing. It's confusing because it's like you have to be one person or you have to be a certain way here, and then with your friends and with your own family or like your private family, your immediate family, you're different. You can be free. You can.
Well, you might trip out to know that one of the causes of depression and anxiety amongst Latinos is the not keeping both cultures. Believe it or not, biculturality has been shown to reduce depression and anxiety. So to the extent that you can adhere to and keep some traditions, as well as have an identity in the mainstream culture, depression and anxiety seem to lessen. So it's when you try to reject completely, that it causes much more mental health problems.
Wow.
Nerding out a little bit there. Nerding out.
Wow. That makes so much sense.
It does. I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, as I've gone further into my healing journey, I've learned I don't have to be the child that I was raised to be. I don't have to adhere to the rules that my parents put, when it comes to, like, for instance, family events. I don't have to be at everything. I'm not a bad person if I don't show up. I'm sorry. I'm just putting my own self before, anybody else. And I've even...
Que malcriada.
Yeah, exactly. Malcriada. And I'm like, what would be the English translation of malcriada?
Like
poorly raised.
Poorly raised, yes.
The way I reframe that is, no, you are raised that way. Your mother and father came here, or they wouldn't be here Americanizing you, sending you to American schools if they didn't want something better. There's an assumption, perhaps, that you will become something better. And perhaps this blending in of another culture, blending in with the tradition, that does make you a better person. And so I don't think that's how I reframe that. You're not malcriada. No, you're exactly raised just like they raised you, to be strong, vibrant, moving beyond. So Candy, I want you to think about that.
I think about that. I feel like my mother is the most Americanized in her 11 siblings because she's a baby and she was raised here the most. So I feel like she's a little bit more lenient. I feel like more of the outside noise of being malcriada is coming from, like, the older generations, like my older aunts and uncles. And it's like, how dare you not say hi, or how dare you not, interact with this person anymore because you're creating a healthy boundary for yourself. And so it's like, I've learned to, in the nicest way, be like, fuck you, I'm taking care of myself. I don't need to make everybody else happy because I need to keep up a reputation of being, well raised. Because no, I'm raising myself well by taking care of my mental health and my own emotions by creating these boundaries. So I want everybody to do that.
And nobody's gonna be at nobody's party. Except Melissa, because Melissa has all the keys.
My sister has 5 kids. So, and they all range in so many ages, So, and that's one thing with the younger generation is I want to be like, hey, your mental health matters, take care of it. And it's like, look at me, I started going to therapy. I take medication. It's okay, and be that example for them. And actually my niece the other day said, you're the reason I started going to therapy. because you made it not scary and you made it
Oh,
okay.
man.
And I was at work and I was like crying, right? And I was like, that's all I want to be, is I want to be the Tia, the aunt to these children that I wish I would have had for myself.
100%.
Candy, you're like leading by example.
Yes, Candy.
Awesome.
Like Candy, I'm gonna be like Tia.
You know, I always think about my inner child, my inner niña, that I'm like, I want to heal her and do all these things, but in that I'm also making a way for my, the younger generation to be this way, because it took me 20 something years to get here. I started therapy on my own with the help of my husband. If it wouldn't have been for him saying, let's go to couples therapy when we were just dating, I never would have gone to therapy. And like that led to my own journey and his own journey of mental health. And it's like, it took me this long to get here. And I want to save them time and the trouble of, they need to experience stuff on their own as well. But I want to make it a little bit easier for them. So
May I offer a little tad of kindness
Absolutely.
towards previous generations? They made it possible for you to do that.
Yes.
Like you're making it possible for the next generation. Just think about how they were raised.
oh yes.
The women I worked with from Mexico, for example, raised in these small pueblos, for them to come and see me when they come here, they're immigrants and they're coming to see me when they maybe have ataque de nervios or los sustos. I mean, the fact that they're seeing a counselor, that's huge.
Yes.
Their mothers wouldn't have done that.
Yes.
No way.
And
That's-
so the fact that they came here and struggled and they did all of that, they set the way for your moms to be different and to set the way for you now to be who you are.
Yes.
So I honor and so respect all these immigration struggles passed down from generation to generation. And we honor it, respect it, and we feel a certain proud. I want you to have some pride in the struggles from your ancestors and how all of that's still inside of you.
Yeah.
Everything they brought is still there with you, and now you're adding stuff, and there's no need for everything, but you still want a sense of belonging.
Yes.
You still want that identity.
Yeah.
You want to be a proud Latina or
Yes.
proud whatever, Mexican American, Chicana, whatever you want to be proud of. And so we don't want to disregard everything about that. We modify it.
Yeah.
You know?
Kristi, I always say that our parents' generation had to survive,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a lot of the reason why, they didn't choose the same path that we had, because they had to survive. They came to another country where they, my father, for instance, came here when he was 14. I can't imagine doing anything like that at 14.
Right.
So their generation had to survive so that we had the option to, do all these things. And I do take pride in the fact that, they went through these struggles to get here so that we could have this free life, Another question I had for you, Kristi, was, do you see a change in the older generation going to down this mental health
Yes.
journey?
In fact, I did a research study probably 20 years ago now, maybe 23 years ago, with the help of some of my students too, in a class I created called Human Service Delivery to Latinos. And so I've always gone out to the community. We looked at, bus boys, people working on the ranches, people working on the farms, laundry mats. We went to various locations, and I had my students go out there and give surveys in Spanish. This was primarily Spanish-speaking people. And then we also interviewed people at Fullerton College, Latinos, It was just Latinos, because I wanted to compare young people with maybe some older population. And they even went in their neighborhoods and they did it. They read to people. We did it in Spanish so that they could all take it.
Yeah.
We interviewed a lot of people. And what we found out is they actually do want to come to counseling.
Really?
Yes, and they think it's helpful, especially for family problems. And I know I had a contract with a couple of factories in Fullerton, and where it was like 600 workers, all like Spanish speaking. And I had a contract to be an EAP worker, an employee assistance program worker, and nobody was coming to see me. And I asked the person, why aren't they coming? And they said, well, maybe they don't know what it is. So I went there and I spoke to all 600 people and explained to them what therapy was. I had to go to each shift, and so I explained we could work on that. You don't have to be crazy.
Yeah.
In fact, I said, crazy people don't even go to counseling.
They don't even
And I said, this is just for regular people who want someone to talk to. And I said, if you have los sustos or, I was explaining it to them all in Spanish. And I tell you, by the end of that week, I had 20 clients.
Wow.
They just needed education.
Yes.
I have found people from Mexico in particular, that was a big part of my client population. They love therapy. They love to talk. They are emotional. They, you know, and when you frame it in terms of family, what's best for your family? That is what is important. So I adhere to the concept of familismo, and I approach it with a personalismo model. Very personable. I don't do this like I wouldn't do dialectical behavior therapy, for example.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to be doing I'm going to cater. They do like crisis intervention. They want problem solving and family work. That's what we found out. Because I also interviewed therapists who work with Spanish speaking families to find out what kind of therapy they do. Every now and then I send someone to a curandero, but they're expensive. But if it works, go ahead. You know, or to a priest. So we might do that, but they like to talk to family and friends. And we found this out, so I think it's a stereotype that Latinos, Mexicans wouldn't go to counseling. They would. You know, they do. Now, men, on the other hand, I don't know how you're feeling, Renee, but we did find men, maybe in all ethnicities, are less likely to go.
Yeah.
Because women are used to getting help. Women are used to going to doctors because they have babies. We're used to always going to doctors and talking about things. You know what I mean? Especially Mexican women, they might have 10 babies or 6 babies, whatever. They're used to that kind of thing. And so and then there's a community, and I think it's evolutionary as well. You know, think about when in caveman days or whatever, women sat around in the caves and they worked and helped each other with their children and talked and learned about each other. Men were out killing that woolly mammoth, okay? You had to plan, point, you know, shoot. So there was a difference in how we're built. And I think I like to respect that and honor. There is a difference, you know, in how we're raised. And I think that I like to really focus on that and honor it and really hear how people experience their tragedies. My favorite client, honestly, is like a 45-year-old woman from Mexico. You know, because she talks, she emotes, she, you know, and you have to feel it to heal it. And that often is what does that, letting them just have their emotions.
Write it down. Really quick, when you mentioned how you have to, like, you feel like you have to please both sides, right? Like, I've struggled with that so much. On top of being in the military, on top of that, like, that was even another divide, right? Like, I just felt like I've always been divided, right? So now that you put all that together, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, that's my puzzle. Like, that's my pizza, right? Like, putting it together, like, yes, I'm all these different types, but it's okay to be all those types, you know, because you feel like you have to be this certain way, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to be in a marriage with kids and this, that, right? And have your household in this, right? Like, that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted my whole life. And it's not like that, but I'm so happy that it's okay. You know, like, I don't feel like I need that whole, like, family thing, you know, and I know it goes against everything, you know, that I wanted, you know, and I know, like, I worried my parents. I know I worried my family because I was on my own and I had my daughter and I had, you know, like, I had to do it. You had to have a choice, right? But that touched big time.
I
touched.
see in your eyes, you look pretty touched right there. Do you know what you're feeling right now, Lisa?
I don't even know how to explain it. It's more like peace, kind of like, like, okay. That's exactly how I feel. Like, I've always felt divided, but, like, pointing it out on, like, or kind of making sense of it, if that makes sense.
Well, I'm sensing there's a sense of balance or an integration, and I sensed that earlier when you were talking. You felt stabilized, like stability is important, and you didn't feel stable without your medication, but with the medication you stabilized, and then you came back and you reset, you balanced, and I think that's what life is a series of. We move along, and then we have a crisis. We have to fix that crisis. We have to do something to adjust and adapt. And then we adapt to a new role. We adapt to something. And then we stabilize at a new level. And that's what life is. It's a journey of struggle, stability, struggle, growing. And I see the tears in your eyes. And, like, what is the message you think those tears might be sending to you?
that I'm not crazy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. Validation.
Mm.
Big time validation.
Yeah.
That I'm not just this, and I'm not just that. And I'm just like, I'm all of it,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Isn't that the nice thing about being a human being?
Yeah.
We're so complicated. We're
So
all.
complicated, it's
Very.
I don't know that AI can compete with
No.
us, but they're trying.
That's right, definitely. Now, Kristi, you wrote this book, A Guide to Crisis Intervention,
Uh-huh.
the second edition. What edition are you on now?
I'm on my 7th edition now, so that was a long time ago. Done a lot of research and changes since then, okay? I have to update it because things change all the time.
Yes. But
It's like life.
can you tell us exactly what a crisis is?
Sure. So I kind of mentioned it just a little earlier.
Yes.
It's when something happens in your life, new or different, that you have to adapt to or adjust to.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they're normal, what we call developmental crisis. We expect them, or cultural crisis. We expect there's going to be some acculturation issues when people come from another country and you try to adapt to another culture. So, and also we expect that when your kindergartner goes to school, there's going to be some adjustment there as it changes, or when you get married, there's going to be some, so certain things are expected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that you have, but you have to adapt. You have to adjust to a new role, or new behaviors have to be set up. You have a teenager now. You don't expect your 15-year-old to sit on the couch with you every Friday and Saturday night under the blanket and watch TV.
I mean, I would love that.
But pretty soon, they're going to be out on a date. You know, your 17-year-old's going to come home at night and say, like, roll over, mom, and throw their keys on the dresser. Like, people have to grow up. So these are the normal expected crises. And then there are emergency crises, things that we don't expect to happen. And those are the ones that cause a lot of trauma in us. Rape, spousal abuse, military service sometimes. There can be, catching a disease. Used to be AIDS was a horrible disease, but, the pandemic. I worked a lot with the pandemic, did some research with that. And so there's a lot of things that happen in life that we don't expect, child abuse, and somehow we have to deal with it. And so what we look at in a crisis, something happens, a trigger, which we call a precipitating event. It precipitates us to have to do something. Now, things happen all the time. If we handle it, that's just stress. That's not a crisis. A crisis is when we don't have the coping skills to handle it. So something happens, we have emotional reaction to it because we're thinking stuff about it. We have cognitions or thoughts about it. If I can't change the way I think, like if I have stinking thinking, okay, and I can't clean it up a little bit and fix it, and I don't know how to cope with it, that's what moves it into a crisis state when I'm not functioning.
Okay.
So the emotions get so much where I can't function, that's a crisis state. But if I can cope with it, maybe I watch a Dr. Phil episode, and that helps me. All right, I don't go into a crisis. It was stress. That's all. Stress is normal. It's when I can't function, that's the problem. And that's why mental health in general has moved to the term behavioral health instead of mental health. Because they were trying to look at, we can quantify behavioral dysfunction. And that's really what the crisis is. Most mental health services now, they focus on crisis. How are you not able to function because of whatever in your life? Because that's how insurance is, If you have lots of money, you can just go to therapy forever and work on all your issues, right? Or if you want to go to a 12-step group or something like that. So there are other services that are regular. But a crisis is really about, can I function? And so the goal of crisis intervention is to get people functioning again. And how do I do that? I help them change the way they think about things. And that's what dialectical behavior therapy really looks a lot at, helping people think differently. But also I give them coping skills. I give them resources. I have them do things like, that's why I love when you do your challenges. That's like you doing something is really going to be a benefit to help you getting through various crisis situations. So that's really the crisis intervention model. And it can be both a danger and an opportunity to be in a crisis. The danger is you don't go see help. You don't get help. You don't talk to anybody. And then you can go downhill, like suicide, homicide, cutting yourself, or just going down into a very deep state of depression and non-functioning. Or it can be an opportunity to grow. You talk to somebody, you go to therapy, you go into a support group, you read, you do a variety of things. Even watching a film sometimes can help. And that can help you. That can make you stronger and better prepared for the next crisis that might come your way. Does that make sense, Renee?
That makes total sense. I think because we've all been there. We've all been on both sides. So it's easy to be like, okay, you know, like, do you want to feel like shit or do you want to feel great? You know, or do you want to like snap out of it, you know?
Sometimes it's not that easy to snap out of things, so Lisa, you know, sometimes we do need help. We need an outside person to come in. It's kind of like they give the metaphor of a fly trapped in a bottle with the lid on it. How does that fly get out? Somebody has to come and take the lid off in order for it. And sometimes that's what therapy is, or something can do that for you. Like this podcast might do that for people out there.
Yeah, I think that's really the big main deal that we want to do this is to, you know, to let people know that, you know, it's okay not to be okay. You know, like there's going to be days that's going to suck, but you know, if you work on it and if you know, there's ways out there that can prevent it, or we can find ways to like, I don't know.
I like when you say we talk about things we're not supposed to talk about.
Yeah.
So that's a huge component of mental health issues. Secrecy.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Secrecy permits unaccountability. And I think we protect people by keeping their secrets because we don't want to hold them accountable, because deep down we know they have issues. Yeah. They're weak. They're not strong enough to maybe handle the truth. And there are some people who can handle the truth because they've kept it a secret so long. The shame would be so much for them to handle. And that's why we want to kind of get things out quick. The sooner we work on things, the better, so it doesn't build up and create these feelings of shame that are just that you can't fix. Some people can't handle that much shame. So we protect other people by keeping things secret.
Candy and I just shared a look right now.
Yes. Yeah. I started to look at you when she was talking about being in crisis, because I felt like I have been in crisis since I was 8 years old when, you know, I experienced my child abuse. And it just, the feelings of overwhelmingness, like my feelings were too much for me. And it was like, even at a small age, it was like, I would put a pillow over my head because I couldn't handle the emotions.
Look at how emotional you're getting now. Imagine an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
You are tuning into that 8-year-old you right now. It's extremely painful.
It is. And I think about that. Like, how did poor little me deal with these emotions, you know?
Oh, when you say poor little me, oh my gosh, that touches my heart so much. Candy, I'm so glad you love that little you.
I do. And I keep a journal where I print pictures of little me and I write things like, hey, you're going to go through a hard time.
Oh shit.
But things are going to get better, I promise. You know, you're going to grow into this, or you're going to meet somebody who helps you, gives you the help that you needed when you were little, you know, and this person loves you and wants you to do better for yourself. Like, these are literally things that I've written in this journal because it's like, I want to heal my inner child that, you know, I want to help her, the help that she didn't get, you know, that my parents didn't know what to do, you know, in that situation. And it's like, as soon as you started talking about crisis and being in crisis, I thought about the emotions that I would feel when I was little, like putting a pillow over my head, or I did try to commit suicide a couple times because my emotions were just so much and I didn't know what to do with that until I started going to therapy. And then it was like, everything is going to be okay. Yeah. Feel your feelings, but just learn the tools to cope with it, because as a little kid, you don't get that. And then if you don't go to therapy until later on in life, you don't know how to deal with your emotions. And how I've learned to deal with my emotions now is through medication, through therapy, and through communication. Because the big thing in my relationship is that I didn't know how to communicate, because it was always like, in the Latino community, you're seen, not heard, basically. And it feels like, okay, you know, even with what happened to me, it was like I said something and then like I felt the shame. you know, like I was the one who did something wrong and it wasn't me. It's not my fault, you know? And it's like, okay, I came to that realization to say, don't be shameful. Like Renee and I have had a conversation about why do we keep this secret for somebody and it's not our, you know, it's something that weighs heavy on us and it's not our fault. We didn't do this to ourselves. Somebody else.
Not our fault.
Yeah. And it's like, we've even talked about, well, why do we keep it a secret? All we're doing is protecting the people who hurt us.
Yes.
And it's like, I've carried that for so long that it's like, okay, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm worrying about me. I'm taking care of little me because I can stand up for myself now and do that.
We're big and we can talk, we can advocate for ourselves now. We realize that now. We couldn't do it as children. We honestly couldn't.
No.
But now Candy and I, like, we've had, we've had that conversation.
Yeah, Renee and I have had plenty of conversations where we relate or we, like, there's aha moments when I'll say something or when he says something and I'm like, oh shit, you know, I feel the same way because we've both gone through this.
Same thing.
Well, and you're protecting the people, but in a sense, in protecting them, you protect the people who love them as well, who you might love. And you, in a sense, all this protection that children do and what you've done is a way, in a sense, to protect the stability of having a family unit because there's something very inherently drawing towards having a family unit. It's built into our DNA. The family was our source of survival. And so that's it's more than just that one person you're protecting. There's a slew of other family members you're helping. They, you know, supposedly because they don't know what to do with all these feelings. Then they're torn. How do you love somebody who's doing these things? You know, it's very difficult. So people have to come to terms with all that anxiety that happens inside. And, you know, so it's very brave of you to come forward and help out that young child inside of you so that you can live most of your life free of being a victim and being that empowered survivor that you've grown to be.
Real quick, I wrote my perpetrator a letter and typed it out, and I decided not to give it to them anymore. Like, but I did write a letter to them. They might have seen it. I put a piece of it like on Instagram, but I didn't give them like the full letter. So that was my way of dealing with it. Like, just slamming the door on being the victim. Like, no more. I'm not gonna be your victim anymore. That was tough, but I'm glad I did that. Like, that was my way to deal with it recently. But I'm not giving you the letter.
So when you said just now, real quick, what do you suppose makes you think that has to be real quick? Because that sounds like something that's not real quick. That sounds like a pretty intense, heavy thing that you did.
I guess like I'm so used to pushing that down, maybe, and like trying not to make a big deal out of it, and like I don't know.
So it just feels like a big deal to me. So I want to sit with you.
Yes.
Can I sit with you in that big deal for a moment?
Yeah, of course.
That's a huge thing that you did.
I think so. Yeah, I'm happy I did that. Like it took it a lot off my shoulders, I think.
How do you feel, Lisa and Candy, hearing that, and how do people out there feel hearing that?
It's like, oh my God, I want to like hug your little like cousins, you know, like when they were little, like, I wish I would have known that. Like, I mean, I don't know if I don't know, you know, like, sorry, you guys.
Renee and I have in the past, I would say 6 months, we have related so hard and we've gone back and forth and had these conversations because we relate so much. My therapist had told me to write a letter. I did the same thing. But what I did is I went to like a lake nearby and we burned the letter, and my parents were there. And so was my husband. We were there to burn the letter, and I read it out loud and then I burned it. And it was very like free to say, this is what I have to say. This is what I felt. This is what I've held on for so many years, and I'm letting it go. And what I've also done is I've created boundaries with that. You know, my older sister had no idea what had happened to me. And when I told her, she felt like, it felt to me like she felt like, why couldn't I protect you, you know? And she didn't find out until I was in my 30s, you know? And it's like, this had been going on, you know, for this many years. This happened to go, and it was like, even telling her felt, you know, like it felt good to tell her that it was like, hey, I've been holding this for this long. And it's just like, okay, that also felt freeing to let her know, you know. And then I also want to protect my nieces and nephews. And that's why I tell them, like, I know it's, you know, it's such a crazy world, but I don't trust anybody. And that's another thing that goes into my relationship, is I don't trust anybody because of what happened to me, you know. And it was supposed to be somebody who I could trust, and that, you know, and it wasn't. And one thing that always sticks in my head is, like, we grew up in Compton and we moved to Orange County so that, you know, we would be safer because of the violence in Compton. And it was like, but I wasn't safe. We came here to be safe, and I wasn't safe. So every time we would go back to our grandparents' house, I would feel safe because it was like, I know I'm okay here, you know? And it's like, that just always sticks in my head. Like, okay, but I wasn't safe. But now I'm safe, and now I create my own boundaries, and now I'm okay to stand up for myself.
Can I hug you?
But I'm like,
And knock over his head.
Sorry, everybody. Oh. I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm gonna go around. I don't know why you didn't do this before.
The good news about this is that you get to spend the vast majority of your life safe.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it was just a few years you weren't safe. And so one day, hopefully you'll be able to look at that in perspective and realize the vast majority of your life was spent safe and choice and powerful.
Yeah.
As long as you can not let that control you. And so congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I know. I'm proud of myself. It's been a long journey, but it's like, even when we're doing the podcast, I'll say things and I see things light up in you guys, and I'm like, it makes me happy because it's like, okay, I've been, and I'm helping you guys, you know, I feel like I'm helping you guys, and it's like, I see realizations come to you guys, and I'm like, okay, well, if I'm doing that for you guys, I hope I'm doing that for you guys out there as well, because it's like, I worked hard to be here, and it's like, you know, every day is still a battle sometimes, you know, like, back when I was little, I would always, you know, every time my emotions were too much, I would want to kill myself, you know, or it was too much, or I would want to hurt myself. And now I can deal with my emotions and be fine. Like, that's not the first thought that I have when my feelings are overwhelming. It's like, okay, now I have the tools to get through this. And I'm so proud of myself because it's like, I can breathe now. Like, it's just like, okay, you know what to do now. You're okay. Like, we don't have to go straight to that, like, you know, the easy way out, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Dang!
I know!
Woo! That was.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Lisa Renee,
Wow. It's like empowering, like everything, like I'm so sorry that all like sucked, but man, like the woman that you've turned into, like.
And I think my spiritual beliefs kind of tell me sometimes that these experiences we have in life, somehow they're helping you become something that maybe you are meant to become. And a lot of it sucks, though.
I say that about like what happened to me. I'm like, it happened for a reason, I guess, and maybe the reason is this podcast, like helping other people get help. We're not like
Well, it happened for a reason because the person who perpetrated against you had serious mental disorders and they're narcissistic and treated you like objects. That's why it happened. But perhaps something was meant to challenge you in life. You know, to you could be a healer or helper for others.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have some weird spiritual beliefs. I'm not just like that.
agree. Yeah.
I'm not super fatalismo, you know, where I
Yeah.
think, oh, it's fate. No, I think we can choose.
No, yeah.
But I think maybe we choose before we come down here. I don't know.
Yeah, you were saying that I feel like I can feel people. Like, I can feel like when I need to text somebody because I'm like, hey, I feel
I
like
have that too.
something is going on. And I'm like, I'll text them and be like, hey, how are you doing? And then, you know, sometimes it'll be like, oh, you know, so such and such is going on. And I'm like, oh, but it's so weird because it's like, I can feel it.
Mhm.
And it's like, well, why am I so like, I don't want to say empath, but
Intuitive.
intuitive. That's the correct.
Connected.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I always know when I need to call my son. I know when something's going on with him.
Yeah.
It's so weird, huh?
Very, very much weird.
I have a question. When we don't deal with the crisis, like what happened with us as children,
Yeah.
and we just let it keep going, will like other little things like a stressful event, will that become like a crisis also?
Well,
or-
yeah, you were reading my book about the
Yes.
crisis. Yeah, the crisis-prone person. So what happens is, you know, when you don't manage a situation right away, like keeping it secret, what do you suppose you have to do in order to keep something so horrible secret? You have to absorb some of your psyche to repress it, to deny it, minimize it. And so a lot of your psychological energy is spent doing that. And therefore, when new stress comes, you don't have the psychological energy to handle the next stressor. And so you're not going to function even more. I've worked with clients who've had so much stress in their life, so much trauma, so much abuse, that she couldn't even open up a can of Campbell's chicken noodle soup and make it for her children. That caused her stress. I've worked with people who going to the DMV was a stress.
Yeah.
And I know it is for us too. No one likes it, but we do it on our lunch break, right? For her, it was I had to spend months getting her prepared. So because their psychic energy was spent in denying and repressing so much of the trauma and dissociating from it, they're not fully engaged to be present with people. So that's the theory about the crisis-prone person.
I think for sure Candy and I.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Lisa, but
Everything is a battle, it feels like
Yeah.
at first.
definitely, like any little thing, it's oh my gosh, like I feel like overreaction, but it's in a way it's not because of what happened to us, and
Yeah,
we didn't deal with
suppressed.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow,
But doing things like writing the letters,
yeah.
that helps because now you're not in denial. Now you're not repressing. So, but now you're just feeling pain.
Yeah.
And I think now you have a lot of pain to just contend with. But you know, the opposite of pain is joy. And there's so much to be joyful now too.
Yes.
Your
Absolutely.
choices can create this quality world, of how you want things to be. That's joyfulness,
Yeah.
You can actualize yourself now and find what brings you joy. Yeah, pain's part of it. Pain is part of life. It's feeling. You don't get to feel joy unless you feel pain.
Yeah.
If you block pain, you're blocking joy.
Yeah. Ooh, that's good. I like that one.
What do you like about that? What do you like about that, Lisa?
I like it because it's like, no matter what. I mean, I'm very spiritual. God and right, like it's my high. I feel like it helps me. He helps me with everything.
May I ask what your spiritual beliefs are, or what that is inside of you?
I have like my faith, my Catholic faith. I still, I practice Catholicism, but I'm also like I read this book, and this book it talks about like Jesus talks to this man, and it just resonates with you, with anybody, with anyone. And this book, it just shows like how much God loves us, how much Jesus loves us by just our everyday life, right? Like if like this man, just really quick, this man, he works like he's from Canada. He has like an insurance. Like he's just an everyday guy. And then like one day he just starts writing and he just feels like Jesus is talking to him, right? And Jesus is telling him like, just give it to me. Give me all your problems. Give me all your stress. Like however you want to write it down or just talk to me. And I got you, right? Like I'm going to put the work into you and you're going to figure it out or whatever, right? So this guy's like, okay, so he's like writing it down and just like everything he does it through love, right? He's just like, how do you say it? Like you could just feel love around you and you like, transmit it.
Emanates or
maybe like you just like, I can't
A
even.
vibe, maybe
A vibe, like just something like you spit out, right? Like everything and the way. Okay, so now reading from this book, I know I have really bad ADHD, by the way. So going back to the book, like it just goes into how putting like your energy, your love, your everything through Jesus, but still doing like your everyday stuff. It for me, like when I put myself in those shoes, when I like resonate with that, like everything feels so good. Like everything's crashing down and I'm okay. Like I feel like okay because I know God's like I have that love that I don't know how else to describe it, but it makes me happy. It makes me full. It makes me, like I can transmit it to my daughter. I can transmit it to my cousins. I can transmit it to everybody. Like, maybe not right now because I'm like super like anxious and everything, but like, I strongly believe that I couldn't do most of my stuff without God, without God's guidance, without his love, without his, because I've experienced it. He's helped me. Like, I mean, we've talked about things that I've gone through and stuff and things that I haven't talked about and that I don't know if I want to talk about, but I have that piece of like, it doesn't bother me, but I know like I haven't talked to like a therapist about it, but I don't feel like that crisis mode or like, I don't feel like, oh my God, like maybe I should be like this because this happened to me just by being in this podcast, like things that have come up that I'm like, oh shit, like I blocked that out of my head. Like while I was, 19 or whatever, like just things that have happened that I'm like, oh shit. Like when I went to therapy, that stuff never came out. Why? Like why? I mean, I'm suppressing, but how much can you suppress without you don't even, like, not that things don't bother you because things definitely bother, but like, almost like anything can happen and it's okay. If that makes any sense. Because I was all like, I was so scrambled.
yeah. I all I could think of is love. I think love is what this is all about.
Yes.
And so my motto's peace and love. I'm very old school about peace and love.
Mm-hmm.
That's it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't let go of that. To me, that's what it always is, peace and love. Love myself, love others. And there's a lot of people out there who need it. And I found that my happiness isn't diminished by sharing it. I mean, that makes me want to cry because there's so many people out there who don't have it, like the people who perpetrated against you. I feel for you. You were victimized and you didn't deserve it. And yet you're overcoming it and surviving it. And yet their lives they might have to redo life again. I mean, I don't know, but pretty miserable lives, you know?
Yeah.
When you think about it, I just see you all rising way up above the level that their life is ever going to be. And it's pretty sad. And I think that you're empathetic. You said you're an empath. You're tuned in. We're tuned into other people's feelings. And maybe that's one of the reasons, myself included, I don't want to, I don't know, be mean or harsh with people like that, because I realize how bad off they have it.
Yeah.
I feel like that with my sister in a way. There's a lot of unhappiness inside of her for many reasons. And that's why it's been hard for me to be so direct and honest with her.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I would have been so blessed with so much that it's hard for me to destroy other people who already very low, bad choices. They weren't given much for whatever reasons. Their misery is so obvious to me. I just can't trample on people who are miserable. I find that very hard for me to do. Not that I haven't been mad at them, but I express that in other areas to other people. And then I learn about where my anger is coming from. But for me, that's just where I'm from. I'm from a new position now. I focus, I'm open, and I'm kind. And that's my model for life. I focus on others. I'm open to change in what other people say and try to approach everybody with kindness. And for me, that's what feels good. That fills me up. And I don't think Jesus would have a problem with that at all.
He's the homie.
I'm pretty tight with Jesus, so, but
Yeah.
I just feel that's okay, for me. What do you mean, wow?
No, you just made me think about like being like kind, and I was just so angry with my perpetrators recently, and just I want to do some like not bad things, but just
I wish that a
and
lot on certain people out there in society that aren't even in my personal world. I don't like that I feel that way.
yeah. Right now, I don't know. I just felt so like she said a peace right now. I feel peace right now too.
Yeah.
Like you saying that, I'm like, you know what? What's the point of being angry at them right now?
Well, there's a song by Will Smith years ago. I don't know if you're old enough to remember it, where he says, "Hate in your heart will consume you."
It's true.
Yes.
It is.
Oh wow. Yeah, there's just
It's hard though, because they screwed you over and people didn't protect you. And that little girl and boy deserved to be angry and be upset because you deserved it. You didn't get something you deserved. They have every right to be pissed off about that, And then we turn around and we understand why they didn't protect you, why this person did this. And we're like, oh, people can be sick. People don't do what they're supposed to do. Yeah. That is part of life. I can hold two thoughts in my head at the same time. I can be pissed at what was done to me undeservedly. And I can be like, God, it just sucks. Being a human's hard.
Yeah.
And people,
so
there's
hard.
a lot of people out there that I don't want them in my life.
Yeah.
They're toxic to me. I don't get anything from that, and I'm sad for them, but let God take care of them. Their maker is going to decide whether they have to come again and fix things or go work on something in another sphere or something. But that's none of my business.
Yeah. That's how I feel. Like, it's not my business. My business is how I feel and how I'm going to take the decision, how I'm going to make. Am I going to make, like, am I going to be happy? Do I choose happiness or not? Or love or hate? It's so simple that it's like, it could be so simple that it, I know it's not easy, but, like, let it go. Me. No, I'm not saying anybody else, like me. Like,
no.
I have to, like.
Lisa, I totally get what you're saying. Like, shit's gonna happen to you. It's how you react to the situation that is gonna make you pissed or just move on from it, I guess, right? Yeah, dang. You're right though.
Well, there's an addictive quality to rage. It does trigger the release of certain neurotransmitters, which are chemicals in our body, that we can get addicted to that because they give us a surge. They feel good. So we get kind of addicted to that rage sometimes. But there's other things we can do in life that we can also have positive addictions to.
Yeah.
Like exercise.
That's what I was
Dancing, singing, loving. All those also trigger the release of all those nice hormones, or not hormones, but neurotransmitters, chemicals in our body. Talking and connecting.
Yeah.
triggers our what's called the mirror neurons inside of us that we're born with, and we connect and we feel empathy towards people and from people. We're building those neurons inside of us, and it kind of triggers the same response we had when our mothers were responsive to us. We call it maternal responsivity. And I'm nerding out again, but you know, I love this stuff. This is the stuff that I've always loved, because when you're a baby and your mother responds to you, there's such a joy. You see how babies love it.
Yeah.
Well, when people empathize with us and validate us and we trigger that same thing, we get that same experience. We go back to what's called our nascent, innocent child self, and we can re-experience that nascent joy from babyhood and that's why therapy is effective, and why churches, we feel those kinds of things. God, religion brings that into us. There's all these studies on how religion brings that to us, along with therapy, new mysterious experiences, yoga, etc. Anytime we can experience that, we go back to that nascent self, which we're searching for.
Yeah. And it's funny because like we're taught, or we're not even taught, we're just like rammed into like, you got to go to mass, you got to go to church, you got to do this, you got to do that, right? You have to be a certain way, you have to dress a certain way, blah, 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 right? And then it's like, you feel like, for me, I felt like until I was happy with myself, I developed another relationship with Jesus where I was more accepting, more empathetic, more loving, more like just different, you know, than I was before when I was going. I mean, I still practice and stuff, but like it was more like it was forced, right? Like 'cause you had to go to church, you had to go to, you know, confession, you had to do this, this, and this, and this, you know. But it was until like, for me, it was until like me individually, like a grown up, I started learning more about Jesus, learning more about God, learning more about like my own, not forcing it on me, was when I was like,
I know it's interesting that
yeah.
there's statistical rates of Mexican Americans moving towards more, I guess you want to call them non-denominational Christian churches, you know, Calvary or fundamental, or those kinds. It's increasing.
Yeah.
They're going away from the Catholic Church, and that's why the Pope has been making circuits, trying to get young people back into Catholicism, because it did become a little bit more forced, and people weren't really connecting spiritually
and now
with things.
it's different now. For me, I feel like it's so fun going, because I don't know if it's something that something has changed in the church where it's relatable. The priests are younger; they're not so old
progressive,
school.
maybe.
Yeah, like even like our priest at one of our at the church that I used to go to, he used to work in a casino. He was like a HR or something like that. In like midlife, he was just like, what am I doing? Like, this is what I want. And he just worked his way through it. So when he preaches, he's able to like be relatable and be like, oh my God, I do that too. You know, and he's just funny. He talks about the casinos. He talks about like, you know, like life. It's not so like, you got to kneel, you got to do this, you got to do that. Right. And it's like, I don't know. To me, it's different.
Real quick, Lisa, growing up, I think religion was used a lot for punishment too.
Yeah.
Like if you don't do this, you're going to go to hell. Or if you do this, you're going to go to hell.
Yeah.
So to me, like, I think that drove a lot of younger generation away. Like,
scary.
Yeah, it's
like,
scary.
Hell?
Yeah, we'll be doomed.
Right? Yeah.
So I want to say I'm religious. I'm more spiritual. I do believe in God and Jesus, but I also believe, you know, we're here making our own choices, and that's where I am. Like, just more spiritual when it comes to that.
I can connect to that, Renee.
Yeah.
And I was raised like Baptist, which talk about hell, fire and brimstone.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's scary.
Well, John the Baptist is the one who baptized Jesus, so there's this whole backstory about that. So I kind of recovered from that, and I'm not that anymore. So, but you know.
Yeah, I feel in religion, there's so many rules. Like I know that there's people in the family who we all were raised Catholic on our mother's side. That's how we're all related on our mother's side. And that some family members ventured to Christianity. And they were looked at in such a negative light. And it's like they still have a relationship with Jesus. It's just not the one that they were raised with. So why is it an issue that they're Christian? They still believe in God. It's just different and doesn't have as many rules.
And your answer to that, to your question, would be?
What was my question?
You said, why do they care?
Yeah,
And, they
why
still
do
love
you-
Jesus. So what's the answer to that question? Why do they care?
Because to me, it's like going back to malcriada. Like,
Yeah.
you're going against what we raised you to be. And it's like, but it's not. It's just on a different path. You know, I'm also more spiritual than religious. But I, like, recently with my parents' accident, everybody's saying that they're going to pray for my family. It's like, prayer does work. It does something for people. And it's like, but two things can be the same, you know? You can be spiritual and still, you know, agree with family who are in the church. It's just, the bad rap that it gets, it's like, if you're not Catholic, you're not.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
don't believe that. No, but
Yeah.
I know what you mean though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, okay.
I went to, don't tell Lisa,
Renee.
Candy, don't tell my mom this.
She's gonna
Because
hear it.
she's gonna
No, pause at midnight.
I went to a Christian church not too long ago, and I actually liked it a lot. Like, it was a lot of positivity. Like, it was just positive talk. Like,
Yeah.
go do this for people, be nice, and I related to it a lot.
Yeah.
So
The Renee, the fact that you stated like don't tell my mom is like it's a
Another
very like
thing.
thing that it's like we're scared, but we're
Yes,
adults, and it's
I
like
know.
your parents should love you no matter what. You know, they don't have to agree with everything your parents do. You know, and like you saying don't tell my mom. You know, and it's like, but you're just seeking a different path with God. You're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
You know, but that's something I think in the Latino community people need to work on. Is
yes.
they still want their parents' approval, and it's like, what good are you doing for yourself in that?
Yeah.
Well,
That's so true.
the familismo is so important. And without that feeling of family and belonging, it hurts. It's painful to be excommunicated. But I have a feeling your parents will love you no matter what.
Yeah.
And so they might, be judgmental a little bit, not like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because somehow they believe they have a right to judge you,
Yeah.
Yes.
and you have to ask yourself, do they have a right to judge your behavior now that you're adults?
Yeah.
And, sure they have a right. Everybody has a right to judge, but, what do we do when other people judge you? What would you do if I told you, oh, you shouldn't go to a Christian church? You're Catholic. What would you think if I said that to you? What would you think if I said that to you?
Like, what the? Do what I want.
Yeah. It's kind of like the parents are going to judge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that's how it goes. That's just what parents do.
Yeah.
And I have news for you all. You disappoint your parents.
Yeah.
I disappointed my parents, and I was
Yes.
like almost perfect, but I still disappointed them, right? Because you have wishes and dreams, you have expectations, hopes for your kids, and they don't become and do everything you want them to do. By definition, that's disappointment, okay? That's all a disappointment means.
Yeah.
And some parents, more than others, feel they have a right to express their disapproval and judgment. I don't do that to my child because I didn't like it done to me.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to feel, it made me feel guilty. So
Yeah.
I didn't want that, so I never do that to him. And because of that, he feels has a right to speak up and say anything he damn well wants to me. And that's good, because I'd rather have him be honest and direct and tell me the reality than holding back on me. I don't like that. I don't want any secrets between us. I can take it. Trust me, I think your parents can take anything. They've lived longer than you.
Yeah.
They've been exposed to more shit than you have. And so, trust me, they can take it, but we, as kids, don't think our parents can handle it.
Yeah.
And there are some people who can. They might not be able to handle horrible things. But said the right way, I think they could handle it. Said the right way.
Yes.
That's true.
And that's why we go to therapists, to say things the wrong way. So that we can learn how to say things the right way to people that we still want in our life, where their love still matters to us.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Like that example. That's perfect. That's perfect. Because I know for my mom, it was really hard for her to be like, why are you going to go talk to somebody else? Like, tell me, And I was like, I ain't going to do that. Right? But It's
Yeah.
Oh my
I
God.
have always struggled with my mom's approval as an adult because I was closer to my dad as a kid. Well, a little bit when I was an adult, but with my mom, it was always like, because I think I was closer to my dad. My mom has always like not treated me different, but treated me different. You know, like it's always been like, okay, I know I'm not the favorite, and I know I'm not the second, but maybe the third, right? But it was all love. Like it wasn't like abusive or anything like that. But it was more like my mom as an adult. Like I've known my mom as an adult, right? Like my mom moved in with me, and I was able to get to know her as a person, not just as a mom. So we connected a lot, and we were able to like explain a lot of stuff that happened, you know, that I didn't know. That I was like, what was this, right? And she's like, oh my gosh, this, like me and your dad almost split up, and this and this and that, right? And I'm like, oh my God, like I thought I dreamt that. She's like, no, like that happened, right? And it's just like, I love that I'm able to connect with her, but I still like at that level, but I still feel like I need her approval almost. But
What would that
I
mean
don't
for you?
know.
What does approval mean?
it's almost like, because my dad's not there, like she needs somebody. She needs like the support, or
So how does approving of you give her support?
because I want to make sure that I'm always there for her. Like I drop everything. Like if she needs anything,
right.
like I go to her.
Could you say that sentence again? I want to always be there for my mother, and I'll drop anything to be there for her. Say that again out loud and see what happens to you when you say that. And you two listen in too, Candy and Renee.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say it again.
Why not? What's happening to you when you're starting to cry? What do you think those tears are about from that one statement?
Because that's not true. That's not true. That's not how it is.
So what's the truth?
That I need to stand up to her and tell her, like, no sometimes. You know, like I have to set a boundary with her. I know she's my mom and everything, but I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to set that, you know, because my mom also, like, she's such a caregiver, right? She caregives, like my sister. She helps my sister out a lot. She helps my brother out a lot.
Your mom
She
helped
helps.
us out a lot, big time, with my mom.
And both things can be true.
Yeah.
Your mother can be a caregiver and give to others and be a wonderful person, and you still are entitled and justified in setting boundaries and having your life that doesn't always include her and meeting every one of her needs. Both of those things can be true at the same time. You're learning that in dialectical behavior therapy, right? Two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
And you know, as a mother of a 31-year-old, you know, I know for me, I don't want to judge my son because you know why? He's so important to me and I love him so much and I want him in my life.
Yeah.
I want to be somebody he wants to be around.
Yeah.
I was the one that'd be missing out most if he didn't want to be around me. He's not going to be missing. He can be fine without me in his life, in a sense, if I were really toxic, right? So why would I want to be toxic to him when I want him to voluntarily want me in his life? And sometimes we project and we think things about our parents that might not be super true. Sometimes they are. But sometimes if we say things in the right way, in an open,
Yes.
focused, kind way, we get results. But it's scary because the first thought is she'll be pissed at you. And, well, so what if she's pissed at you? Like, what does that mean? Is she not going to love you? You can be pissed at someone and still love them. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Both things exist at the same time. Do you understand? It
It's
looks like
hard.
you're resonating, Renee.
Yeah.
And I know you know from reading your book,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. I have a very good relationship with my mom, and now as an adult, I can talk to her about things, and she's not gonna always take my side. She's gonna be honest with me and tell me, "Hey, you're being like." I don't want to talk bad about my father, but she's like, you have the same stubbornness that your father has.
Mhm.
And she resonates with my husband, and she's like, this is probably how your husband is feeling. And so I like having these conversations with my mom because she's on the opposite end of it. So I'm my dad and she's my husband. So she can tell me the perspective of, hey, but as my mom, you know, and a message that my husband can tell me is going to sound to me one way, but coming from my mother is different. But it's like, I still have a boundary with her where it's like, okay, you know, I don't have to take everything that you say, you know, as a word to, you know, what I need to live my life by. But as an adult, I've seen my relationship with my mother grow as like, she's somebody that I can have a conversation with, but it's not like she's telling me what to do, basically. I think that's what you guys need to do. Like that, right?
Can you tell your mom to talk to my mom?
We're meeting with our mom.
Yeah. I think the sisters need a chat.
Bring them on the podcast. Yeah. Yeah, there's things that I've worked on that I can see in both Renee and Lisa that I'm like, you guys will get there. Like, but I can't pull you guys there.
No.
You guys have to figure it out on your own.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I know.
Kristi is making waves today.
She is.
I like to make waves, not war.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. I feel like a lot of today has been not in a negative way, but like a mirror. You've been holding up a mirror to us,
Yeah.
and you have the tools and the verbiage and the experience to know what it is. And it's like, we've discussed things in between us, but you have the credentials and everything to say, you know, this is what it is. This is why you're feeling that way. And that's exactly what therapy is. You say something and you relate back, this is what I'm hearing. And that's exactly what therapy for me has been, is like somebody understands you and validates you for your feelings. And I want that for everybody. You know, these feelings that we've had and the crying that we've had today is because we relate and it's like we're being seen.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm like, therapy is like, earlier when I was talking about my niece, she's like, it was so scary, but it's like, but look at how much better you feel. I feel so much better after, you know, word vomiting everything that I've been feeling, you know? And if you can't make it to a therapist that day when you're feeling something, I personally write things down, how I'm feeling in that moment, so that I don't forget when I go back into therapy that, hey, this is something that I want you to help me with, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's like a secret, but it's like, it's not a secret. Go to therapy. It helps so much. Like, yeah, I think therapists like you, and especially in the Latino community, for you to do that, you make such a big difference.
Yes, you do.
Yes.
And it's like, for you to, especially in that community, for you to do the work. And when you were talking about the research study that you were doing, like, to put in all that work is like such a, I'm trying to think of the word, but you have made such a difference. I know you have. And even bringing that here, you relate to what, you know, a lot of what we, you know, how we were raised and stuff like that. So just here, you made such a difference in my life. And I can tell in Lisa and Renee that they've definitely resonated with what you said. Like, that's why I'm like, I want to give you your flowers, because it's like, yeah, and for you to you know, you're specifically in Latino along with veteran, you know, behavioral mental health, is like, why did you choose that?